everybody. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Tonight I'm going to be talking about small group strategies and tips for place value and how you can be working in small groups for place value in your own classroom. So today I'm going to wait just a few seconds and let kind of people roll in. I know it's the end of the week and we're all tired and ready for the next week to get started, so I apologize. I know it's Thursday. But if you would like, I would love to know what grade you teach, and I'd love to know where you're from, so if you'll leave that in the comments below, that would be wonderful. And if you'll take a look at the very, very top in the descriptor for this video, what I've done is I wrote out a couple things. For example, if you want to know more about Math Workshop, I've linked to previous videos. If you missed any videos this week, that was a video I did earlier. I think I did that on Monday. And then the middle link is a link to some whole group place value mini lessons that I have in my store on TPT. And the last one is a freebie that I have for you guys, which I'm going to be showing you guys how to use during this video. So I hope you guys will check out all those links. So let's see. First things first, I want to start talking about doing small group instruction. And one of the things I love to do in small group instruction is to be using my manipulatives. I find that that is the easiest time to manage them. I can make sure kids are using them correctly and they're also getting the most from them so that they're really exploring and learning and gaining more mathematical knowledge rather than building little houses out of the blocks, which is what, kids do. One of the things I do suggest in that very first week of school is to go ahead and pull out those snapped cubes. Go ahead and pull out those base 10 blocks and let kids play. Get the play out of the way. Let them put them together and take them apart and stack. See how hard they can stack them and pop them together and explore with them because they're going to want to do it. Go ahead and get it out of the way and let them enjoy it. And it's a good time to talk about, go ahead and explore. And at the end of the lesson, you could talk about, what we did today was to practice and to play with it, but when the teacher's teaching, your hands need to be in your lap. You need to be listening with your ears and your eyes and your mouth. That means your eyes need to be on the teacher, your ears need to be thinking and listening to what I'm saying, and your mouths need to be closed. So you could talk about that at the end of that exploration time, and then you'll have had time to play with it and time to explore it, but also you'll have time to teach procedures for how you choose to do manipulatives in your own classroom. So I did mostly, I did some whole group instruction with manipulatives for special occasions. Like if I did, I know I've mentioned the greedy triangle was one of my favorites, and we used geoboards and rubber bands to create the different shapes during the book as we read it. So that would be a great whole group lesson that I would do on a day where I did not do Math Workshop. So I did sometimes do manipulatives, but I generally did them in the small group setting. And since I met with all my kids throughout the week, I didn't feel bad about making sure that was the most time where I used them most often. The way I had it set up in my classroom is I had a guided reading table, and behind my guided reading table I had a rolling cart. It's like one of those Sterilite or Rubbermaid rolling carts. You can also use those beautiful, like the ones that are like rainbow colors. They're so pretty. I didn't have mine. Mine was just one of those white plastic ones, so it was nothing fancy. And I took each drawer, and labeled with a math manipulative. So one drawer was counters, one drawer was base 10 blocks, one drawer was fractions, and so on down on the line. And what I would do is I would pre-bag all my manipulatives into enough for one student. So I'd have a bag with, 10 rods, 10 ones, and a couple hundred flats, all zipped together ready. So when it was time for small group instruction, I would just have to turn behind me, open up the drawer in my cart, pull out one baggie per student, and the manipulatives, whether they're counters or snap cubes or whatever I chose to use, they were ready to go. So that was a nice, easy tool. Now, one of the things you've also got to keep in mind is that kids are kids, and so when they're pulling out a bag of math manipulatives and they're like blocks and small counters and things, they're generally going to spill them out and they're going to go everywhere, and that's just the nature of the beast. That's just kids. So one of the things that I like to do before we started math lessons and before we got started on the actual instruction, I would take out little placemats. I bought my placemats at the Dollar Tree, and I think they were like 3 or 4 for $1, and they were like really cheap, thin. They're almost like that shelf liner that you would have found like at Walmart would be another option. I would give every child a placemat, and the placemat were all different colors. There's purple and pink or whatever. So I just gave each kid a different mat, and we talked about how their manipulatives needed to stay on their mat, and that helped to keep them from getting all mixed together and losing where they were and that kind of thing. So it just helped them keep their space organized for them. Another thing I would like to talk about today is I'm going to actually dive into some of the actual ways that I taught and introduced place value when I was in small group. Now, I've got a bunch of different cameras set up, so I'm trying something new, so hopefully this works. So I apologize if it looks like I'm looking over to the left or right, or I'm not looking at you guys. It's because I'm making sure I've got my right monitor going. So I'm going to switch screens real quickly. Let's see if I can figure out how to do this. All right. And let's see if a new screen is on for you guys. We should have a brand new screen, and you should see all my place value materials. Let's see. So I've got my work mat in my area set up. You'll notice on the very top, I have a two hot pink, it's a hot pink looking place value mat. I have this mat that I laminated, and I also have the yellow one that I laminated. These are the freebies that are linked above you, and it'll say, I think, place value mat freebies is pretty obvious which they are. So we're going to talk about these in just a little bit. I'm going to take them off right now so I can make sure. I want to talk about introducing place value, and I'm going to switch around where I am just for a second. One of the things that I like to teach kids is I like for them to explore and figure out how the different places on the place value chart are related. So one thing we like to talk about is say, okay, so this is a 10 rod. Why do you think it's called a 10 rod? And then we might say, okay, so if these are ones, how do you think they're alike? Like how many, how much bigger do you think the 10 rod is than a 1? And I'll have them, so well, let's just build it. Let's just use our ones to see if we could stack it and build it. So I'll take them, so let's just put them next to each other and see if we can make our ones be just the same size as our 10s. All right, so we'll have them stack them very carefully to the point where they'll figure out, look, it's the same length. And because they're right next to each other, they can actually visualize it. And we might even say, use another one to stack it and make it neat so they can see like that. It is very tedious. So how many ones are in a 10 rod? Oh, that's interesting. There's 10. And think about it. The name 10 rod even has 10 in it. That's very interesting. Okay, so let's just talk about this one. This is called a 100 flat. How many ones do you think are in a 100 flat? And you could talk about it, be like, okay, well, we could take these and place it all over, but that might be really, really hard. So let's just try. So it takes 10 tens, 10 ones are in a 10. Let's see if we can figure out how many 10 rods are in 100. And we're just going to stack them and see if we can figure out, how much do you think? How many 10 rods do you think are in 100 flat? And you could have them stack and be like, that's interesting. There are 10 rods that are the same size as 100 flats. That's because there's 10 rods in the 100 flat. And I bet if we were to cover these up, I bet there would be 100 little 1 cubes if I were to fill it all up. And you could have your kids actually build that, but it's so tiny and their little fingers aren't quite dexterous, is that the right word for it, that they could stack it. So they sometimes struggle with it. So we could say, okay, so I get it. So there's 1 in the ones, and there's 10 ones and a 10 rod, and there's 10 rods and a 100 flat. Now, I wonder how many 100 flats do you think are in the thousands cube? And you may not teach the thousands place. I did this in 2nd grade, even though we're only supposed to go with to basically 999. You're supposed to teach one in 1,000. But I thought conceptually it was important for them to understand. So I said, let's see if we could take all our 100 flats and if we could build a 1,000 cube. And never fails, no matter how bright my kids are. Every time I've done this lesson, I've always had kids try their very best to stack them. And they get so, they try their hardest. They stack them so carefully, and they do it this way, and they put the back over here. And so it looks visually kind of close, but not exactly. And I love this 1,000 cube that I have. This 1000 cube is solid. It's solid wood so that you could feel the weight of it, and that's important for this lesson. If you have a 1000 cube that's hollow, which a lot of the plastic ones are nowadays, it's not quite as powerful. So I'll actually hand them this and be like, wow, that sure is heavy. I wonder if yours is that heavy. And they'll be like, there's nothing inside of it. Probably no, it's not that heavy. And then we'll talk about, and it's not quite the same size. Yours is a little bit longer and a little bit taller. So it really isn't the same amount, is it? They're not exactly the same. And we'll say, well, let's think about what we know. So if there are 10 wands in a 10 rod, and there are 10 rods in 100, how many hundreds do you think are in 1000? And we'll talk about that number 10 until we say, okay, well, let's see if there are 10 hundreds and 1000s flat. And what we'll do is we'll actually stack, and I don't have 1000 flat, or I'm sorry, 10 flats to show you. What we'll do is we'll actually stack them next to each other so that they can see that it is as tall, and mine will not be because I just don't have enough. It's as tall and the same length and the same width as a 1000s cube. And you could say, and you know what, when you were building it like this, we were missing that entire middle, right? By stacking this way, we have the middle is inside of it. Now, so that means that there were how many hundreds flats? And you can count and be like, wow, there's 10 hundred flats in 1000. You know, it's called the base 10 system. And I wonder if it's because there's 10 of each in each place. There's 10 ones in a 10 rod, and 10 rods in 100, and there's 10 hundreds in 1000. How many thousands do you think are in 10,000? And we'll talk about it and have them guess. So that's a great exploratory lesson to practice about understanding how the base 10 system works and how it's basically 10 of each. So that's almost always when I'm teaching place value, one of the first lessons that I teach with my kiddos. And so it's just basically a great way to explore. Now, the next lesson I like to go into is how do you build numbers? And one of the ways that you could do that is we talk about when we write numbers. And we write numbers in standard form. For example, if we did the number 60, and I'm writing backwards, so I hope it shows, and I can't, is that 3? But nope, that's backwards, sorry. I'm rusty on my writing backwards skills. That should be right. So it's 63. You could say, all right, so let's put it in the hundreds, or the place value chart. We'll have to make sure you always start in the ones. And so that will be this number right here. And then we'll go to the next place. That is the tens. I'll write our tens. So we're going to build this number. So let's see. How many ones are in 63? Well, if I look at my ones place, it tells me there are 3 ones. So how many tens do you think I need to use? And we'll say, okay, there's 6. So we'll have them count out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we can say there's 6 tens in 63 and 3 ones in 63. And if I write it, I know that because if I line up my place value chart, each of the numbers tells you how many blocks should be in that place. And we'll practice building and building it and building it. And then what you can do, you can say, okay, well, I'm going to trick you up now. I'm going to try to trick you up. We're going to trip you up. We're going to try something different. So I'm going to build a number, and you tell me what number I built. All right. So you could do it this way. And then the kids will say, they can match it up, and they can count it to match it up and to be like, okay, there's 2 of those and there's 5 of those. So when they're counting it, they're already recognizing the number, the digit to use. And you'll say, oh, you're right. There is the digit 2 in the tens place and the digit 5 in the ones place. So that they could start realizing this is called standard forms. When you write a number like a normal way, like you'd see any number written where it's not written with words, this is how you write it when you write it in standard form. So this would be the number 25. So that's one of the first lessons to do is taking numbers and writing them in standard form and actually building them from the base 10 blocks. Now, after that, after we've done this, I like to move into value of the digit. And one of the things that's hard when you start, like kids can understand this and they can master this. And sometimes that transition to value of the digit is very confusing because it's the vocabulary. Like when you're talking about digit, what's the standard form? Well, you tell me how many of the blocks are in this place to tell me the standard form. You say there's 2 blocks here and 5 blocks here, and that becomes the standard form. When you start moving into things like value of a digit, it becomes confusing because what they'll try to do is they'll say, well, there's 25. and they'll write it as 205 because in their mind they're saying the value of the digit is 20 and 5. And we'll go into more a little bit about that. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to give you a strategy to keep them from making that error because it is actually pretty common. One of the things that you can do is that you can get a whole different place value chart and you can make it another color. So then that's just one visual cue right there. We're doing something different. Okay, so this is a very similar place value map. The difference is down here it said I can write a number in standard form. So yet again, you're reinforcing the vocabulary. By having a different mat and a different color, it's got different words. And this it says I can write the value of each digit. One of the things you want to do is you want to talk about what a value is. What does value mean? And when you talk about value is how much something is worth. I value my family. It is worth a lot to me. Sometimes people might say the value of this diamond is priceless because you can't even estimate how much it's worth because it's worth so much. So you might want to talk about and we talk about value deals at McDonald's. It's a good value. You're getting a lot for your money. So we talk about that word value first and we explore that. Then, after we explore that, we'll start building some numbers. Okay, say, okay, so we know if we were to write this in standard form, I know that there are 3 blocks here and there are 2, 4, 6 blocks here, but we're not going to write this in standard form. What we're going to talk today is about the value of each place. How much is this place worth and how much is this place worth? Well, let's see. This place is worth 6. So it's worth 6 over here. This place over here is worth 3 tens. And you could put 3t if you wanted to squeeze it in. Well, how much is 3 tens worth? Well, let's see. I get 10, 10, oh, that's a lot to add together. 10, 10, another 10. I wonder if I could skip count. So let's see if I'm going to label 10, and I'm going to try to write this backwards. 20, 30. Ah, it's worth 30. So I know that this place is worth 30. Now, what if I were to put 200 cubes here? How much is this worth? Well, I know I got 2 hundreds, and I wonder if I got 100, 200. So I can write 200, and I would practice this a ton. And so you might say, so you could say the number 236, it has a 200, and it has a 30, and it has a 6. It has 2 hundreds, 30 tens, and 6 ones. And I would do that and practice that over and over and over. By doing this, what you're leading to is here you got the digits, the number in standard form. With this, you got the value of the digit, which is going to lead itself naturally into expanded form. So I would practice that over and over and over till my kids felt pretty good with that. Then, well, let's see if I can get it to erase real good. This is a dry erase. So I got to scrub it just a little bit. Now, next, so you're going to want to do that until your kids have a solid understanding of what the difference of standard form and the value of the digit is. By practicing on this mat, you get a little bit of both. And you also talk about the place value itself by putting tens, hundreds, and ones. So let's just say, okay, guys, let's do this number right here. I'm going to build this number. All right. So let's see what we got. How many ones do we have? Well, there's 2 ones, which is worth just 2, right? And there's 1, 2, 3, 4 tens. And let's see what that's worth. That's worth 10, 20, 30, 40. And they may not need to write the skip counting. That may be just a scaffold for kids who need it. And then we got hundreds. We got 100, 200, 300. So you can see 300s equals 300. Now, I wonder if I could do this as a math problem. So we have 342. And if you wanted to, you could also write it like this. 342. So that the actual digit matches the place value chart. You can say, okay, so we could say that equals, well, there's 300 here and 40 in this place. So because this is worth 40, the value of this place is 40, the value of this place is 300, the value of the tens place is 40, and the value of the ones place is 2. Now I'm going to show you something. What if I did this? I'm going to add it all together. What do you think 300 plus 40 plus 2 is? So they're going to be like, that's what they're going to do because suddenly it's a different format. So you can say, well, let's just count it out. We got 1, 2, 3, 300s, 300, 10, 20, 30, 40, 340, 342. And you're going to have to walk their hands because most kids won't be able to do it. So you say, that is so awesome. What we just did is we did some big math. We took each place on the place value chart and we added it, each place together. So we added the hundreds place plus the tens place plus the ones place. And this has a special name. When you take and you add each place together, the value of the hundreds, the value of the tens, and the value of the ones, you are stretching that number out by showing the value, and you're pulling it and you're expanding it. Have you ever heard what the word expanding means? When you take a balloon and you blow it up, and you know how it gets air in it, it gets bigger? Well, that's kind of like when you do expanded form. The amount, or no, you want to be careful when you phrase it that way because you don't want to say the amount. You say it gets bigger, you get more. I'd be very careful in how I phrase that because you don't want to make them sound like it's more. I would say, expanded form shows the value of each digit and it shows it out on the paper by making it like an addition problem might be a better way to phrase it. So I would do that a couple times until they are practiced. They could show you, they could write it in standard form. They could write it with 300s, 4 10s, 2 1s, and then they can write it in expanded form. And this is where you're going to actually trip them up. After you do this, and you practice this a good bit, and you think they understand the expanded form, what you want to talk about is what happens if you have it out of order. All right? So you'll say, okay, I'm going to build a number, and I'm going to build this. All right, so you're going to go through your same routine and say, okay, what's the value of each digit? It's 2 1, so it's 2. It is 2 10s, and that's 10, 20. And this is 100, which is 100. So I can write that in expanded form by saying 100. 120, 3, did it wrong. So that didn't look right. 123, like this, is 120 plus 3 in expanded form, if I were to take it out. Now I have a question. What if I were to take my mat away, and here are my cubes? If I were to change the order, does the value change? Well, let's look. Is there still 100? Okay. How many ones are there? There's 3. What's the value of the tens? How many tens are there? There's 10, 20. So there's 2 tens, which equals 20. Well, wait a second. That matches. And that matches. And if I go way down here, this matches. Well, I didn't change the value. I didn't take any away. I didn't add any blocks, right? So the value is still the same. When you're doing expanded form, sometimes people will try to trick you up and they will try to write it in order, or they will try to write it in order sometimes, which would be great. But other times they will try to trip you up and they may write it out of order. But you are so smart that you know that we didn't change the value of any of the blocks. We just changed their place, their location. And when we change their location, all it does, see if I can match it up down here. Oh, I did it. Sorry. I'm trying to do it backwards and it's throwing me off. It doesn't change the value or the amount. We still say that there's 2 tens, we still see that there's 100, and we still say that there's 3 ones. And so by teaching this, you're going to get kids to realize that when they start seeing these expanded forms where they don't write them necessarily in the place value chart order, that the value of it is still 123. This is really hard to write backwards. I'm out of practice. But so they can realize that the expanded form is still the same, even if they don't reflect the order of the place value chart. And so we'll practice ordering it and we'll trick each other and we'll have them build it and have their friends write it, and then switch the order of it and have their friend write it again. So you can make it so that it's like, so their friend can build it like this. You could have them hold their thing up. They could build it like that and then show their friend and then cover it up again. And they could do this. and show their friend and have their friend rewrite it so they could realize that they didn't change any of the blocks, they just changed the order. So that's just a strategy for when you see those tricky expanded form problems where they rearrange the places. Now, that is all I have for you guys tonight. If you like this video, I would love for you to like it. And if you really, really liked it, I'd love for you to hit the share button below, and you can share it with all your teacher friends because I hope they will enjoy it as well. If you would like for me to talk about other specific subject areas, if you want me to do one for addition facts, subtraction facts, money, those kind of things, please let me know what you're looking for, and I will do my best to work through those. Or if this is a series that you would like to see, I'm happy to do that as well. And I will be probably doing a little bit of changing with my Facebook Live schedule. I found that it's really hard for me to do them during the week with my family, and I know that it's probably hard for you guys as well to see them. So that if you will consider letting me know what days work best for you. I was thinking about maybe doing not place value, sorry, I'm reading my screen, doing Facebook Lives on Sunday nights and maybe a Thursday night, and if that works good for you, I would love to know that. And if not, if you'll let me know what days do work best for you, that maybe I could see if they work for my family as well, and I can make sure I meet your needs. I hope you guys have a wonderful and blessed day, and hopefully I will get to check in with you guys very soon. Thank you.